All right, we'll move on then to Birds of Prey Revolution issue 1. This is Chuck Dixon writing with Stefano Raphael on the art. This is another oversized one-shot, which, you know, is basically what the rest of Volume 1 of the big trades are at this point. But what I think is interesting is that this did, again, continue kind of where Oracle and Canary are in terms of the relationship, and it kind of comes to a head at the end of the issue a little bit. So, like past stories, you know, Dinah's out, you know, fighting stuff, and she's undercovered this weird kind of enslavement scheme with this like, it's like a casting couch style thing where they have actors come in, but then they drug them and put them to sleep and send them off to be slaves. And so there's some fighting here from this, and she finds out that they have to go to Santa Prisca. Oracle's like, oh, there's a boat leaving soon, you can maybe sneak on. And she's like, wait, what? I've got an expense account, right? So it cuts to her on a plane, and she's in first class, drinking champagne. So, you know, so there's some comedy there. Once we get there, though, it kind of sets up this... it makes it look like there's going to be some sort of big drug ring that this guy, what was his name? The love interest. No, the love interest.
Oh, the love interest.
Yeah, because Diana meets this guy who seems to be part of this sort of, you know, he's negotiating with the local like gang or whatever about what they're growing in their fields, and you assume it's drugs. But there's kind of a reveal later that's kind of fun where it turns out no, this is actually, it's cola leaves they're growing, and one of the big cola companies like wants their leaves from here, and he's kind of negotiating on their behalf, and it's big business. So they send in this guy who can fight and negotiate.
And there's a funny bit where it plays into the drug angle at one point, which is like, oh, is it a grown product by any chance? And he's like, why, yes, it is.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a fake brand of cola as well, because they're not using Pepsi and Coke. Because at the end, when she kind of like says, "Nah, we're not going to be a thing," she says that she's it's kind of like, let's say it was Coke. At the end, she would be saying, "Oh, I'm more of a Pepsi girl," and walks away. But it's not obviously not that word. It's like some made up brand.
Yeah.
You get the joke though. So I mean, that's basically the thing is. But the big part of the issue though is that Dinah tries to take on this fight on her own, and like we've seen her do a couple of times, she takes out her earpiece to stop talking to Oracle when Oracle tells her to back off, and gets herself captured. It's actually kind of a funny beat actually, where she's like out in the jungle even, she's kind of like sneaking about, and Oracle's like saying, look, be careful, they don't like being, you know, interrupted or anyone watching them, be careful. And she's like, don't worry, I've got this. And then the very next panel is like, just she's surrounded by masked men with the guns, and she's like, oh. And Oracle's like, oh, what-oh, Dinah, what-oh. Like, there's just really funny beats like that, really make the chemistry between them work. Really good stuff. And she gets captured, ultimately. She gets swiped from behind, and there's also a little thing here where she befriends like the guy, there's like a kid who drives her to her hotel when she arrives, Tico, who then becomes like an ally, where he like ends up driving the truck full of the sleeping people who have all been kidnapped. And
the kid's like 12 or something.
Yeah. Do you know what I felt they were going for here? I felt like I was getting like Short Round from Temple of Doom kind of like vibes. I think that's what they were kind of going for here a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that.
But she gets knocked out and kidnapped, and Babs has to do something a bit radical. She puts a call into Mr. Gallion. Well, that's the love interested. I found his name. And she's like, hey, you don't know who I am, but you're going to have to. And basically kind of threatens him, but ultimately in a way to go and save Dinah. Like, you know, she's doing this so that someone will be there to go in and get Dinah, because they're about to, like, basically experiment on her. She's like strapped to a table, and they're going to...
Yeah, they've got these forceps coming in right at her face, and it's sinister looking.
Yeah. But of course, Gallion and his troops show up, and the fight ensues. He shoots some of the bad guys, gets her undone. And we get a big action sequence where she runs off and does some theatrics. She ends up hanging from a helicopter, running up a building, and there's flames and all the rest of it. And gets the general who's behind all this stuff. And you know, he's actually kind of funny as well, because he's sort of basking because he can't swim, and she's got him like. So, you know, Gallion shows up like hanging from a helicopter to like get them out of the water. So, you know, big theatrics is kind of what Birds of Prey's been mostly pretty good at since it started. You know, all the issues we've read, there's been a lot of good action stuff. They're really leaning into the fun kind of espionage side of it.
Yeah, definitely. I thought this issue wasn't as strong as some of the others like this because I thought art was a bit hit and miss. Like some points it was perfectly decent, other points it was kind of rough, very cheesecakey at times as well.
Yeah, a bit cheesecakey. I can agree with that. I probably like this the second best though. I mean, because what we had that first one which was really good, and then we had the flashbacky one with Lois, and that was okay. We had the 4-issue mini, which was enjoyable, but I don't think that was as good as that first one. And I think this was probably the second best. I think this is probably, it's story wise. I mean, mainly because I think Babs and Oracle's relationship has really got to a point here where at the end, Babs is like, no, we have to talk about this. We have to talk about you not listening to me. And they have this argument where ends in this really bittersweet note. I think it's quite interesting where even though this is a one shot, it's clear that there was plans to kind of continue this going forward into at least another one shot or another mini or whatever.
Yeah, I think at the end of mine, I'm just gonna flick through and check. It actually says, yeah, coming soon, Birds of Prey Wolves.
Oh, there you go. But it ends in this bittersweet moment where Babs yells at her over the comms and says, no, you have to like work with me, you have to listen to me, and hangs up on her. And she's left standing there on the beach on her own, kind of all somber. So it's a really, I like how there's this continuity here with their relationship, which I think is the heart of the whole story or the whole book right now, is them working together and kind of struggling. Also Babs hugging her little Batgirl plushie also.
Yeah,
points.
I think you're right in that this has got some really strong character beats for the pair of them. And you said it has the second best story because of that. And I'm not sure I necessarily disagree with that, because I think those beats are really solid. I just personally found the read as an issue overlong and kind of a bit, it was a bit drawn out, and the action hit or miss with the art. So it wasn't necessarily as enjoyable as some of the other stuff, even if the core beats, if you distill it down to just that, when you think about it, were quite strong.
Yeah, no, I was into it. I think Dixon's writing is one that I find doesn't usually weigh on my patience. So even when it's a longer issue like this, I find to get through it relatively well. Even that first one shot we did that was quite big. I never really felt the length all that much. Like I could tell it was longer on the regular issue. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I was oh, that felt like a really quick read, but I never felt it weigh on me as I was reading. Sometimes when I'm reading annuals and stuff like that, I'll get like halfway through, I'm like, oh my god, this is
I get that. I think I felt a bit more than you did in this issue, because by the time we got to like the second action or sequence, or the third one by the end, I was really feeling like, oh, it's another action sequence, as opposed to just having like one proper sequence at some point in a standard sized issue.
Yeah, so obviously next time we'll be doing Wolves, but what would you give this issue?
I'm going to give it a 6 because, all the stuff I was just saying, basically.
Well, I liked it a bit more than you did, so I'm going to go with a 7. Really solid stuff. I'm loving the development of their relationship, and obviously, comics I often relate to TV shows, but in the same sense, I think the character relationships are arguably the most important part, because they're the stuff that has to be there, for the whole book. So
can't really argue with that.